everybody! Whoa. Anybody like Led Zeppelin as much as I do? Well, that's their recording from 2007. I don't know if anybody's heard it. They did a reunion concert about 10 years ago, and it was to benefit. It was about the death of Ahmet Erdogan. Ahmet Erdogan. Maybe I'm confusing Ahmet with the president of Turkey. Who knows? Whatever. Anyway, they were commemorating the death of the president of Atlantic Records or something along those lines. But ever since I was a kid, I have loved Led Zeppelin. Absolutely loved it. I was absolutely disappointed, appalled when they decided not to do a reunion tour after that concert. Now that is something to be appalled about. But what are people appalled about? What is the media appalled about right now? The media is absolutely appalled that President Trump has pulled out of the Paris Climate Accord. I mean, it's insane. It's crazy what they're saying. Hold on, let me turn this thing around because I'm staring at the traffic again instead. Well, hold on one second. Let me just get around this corner. You know what they say, distracted driving, not necessarily a good thing. All right, okay, now I'm less distracted. So let's turn this thing around. Oh, here we go. Okay, yeah. So, the media, absolutely stark raving insane. Read my article, guys, if you haven't already, on Liberty Clarion Call about this, because their reactions, it's almost like it's taking candy away from a baby. That's the way they're whining, they're crying. I haven't seen this kind of whining and crying, guys, since Hillary lost the election. You can almost see the tears streaming down their face. I almost need to offer them a Kleenex. Offer them a tissue. Oh my God, Trump pulled out of the Paris Climate Accord. I mean, everybody from the Washington Post to MSNBC to CNN to the Boston Globe to, everybody. The only when you look at the mainstream media, the only favorable reaction to what the president did could be found in the Wall Street Journal. They pointed out that a number of things they pointed out about how our country would have lost. We would have lost, and we would have lost, and we would have lost had we stayed in the Paris Agreement. Because that's really what it was. The Paris Climate Accord was nothing more than a globalist redistribution of wealth from your wallet and my wallet to the rest of the world. That's all it was. The United States stood to lose everything under this awful deal, and the rest of the world would have gained from it financially, largely. This was really all about money at the end of the day. And when you do the reading, when you look into the actual facts about the entire premise of their argument, oh my God, it's all about carbon dioxide emissions. Well, I did a little bit of reading on that, and I posted also on my page there's a really good book about that that you should read. And one of the things I read, and this is based on some pretty good factual analysis, is that, and get this, carbon dioxide accounts for a very small percentage of the Earth's atmosphere to begin with. I mean, it's a tiny fraction of a percent. And if I remember my own article correctly, because I'm only on my first cup of coffee, so the neurons aren't quite firing yet. I believe that what I discovered from my reading was that human contribution to CO2, the accumulation of CO2 in the Earth's atmosphere, the human contribution to the already minuscule amount of CO2 that's actually in the atmosphere is 0.0015%. And now again, let me say that again. Not 15%, not 1.5%, not 0.15%. Those might have actually been, I don't know, maybe a little bit more significant contributions when you look at it depends on where you put the decimal point in the equation, right? 0.00, that is 0.0015%. That fraction of a percent is what we actually put into the atmosphere. And the reading I did also indicated that of the total amount of CO2 that accumulates in the atmosphere every single year, a significant portion of that is reabsorbed also by plant life. And if you look around, look what I'm driving through. I'm driving through the Blue Hills Reservation. I drive through here every day on my way to work. You know what? All of the trees that I'm driving by here, they're the same trees I've been driving by for the last 21 years. I mean, hey, look, let's be honest. I mean, they love to scream about, oh my God, they're cutting down all the rainforest. Well, that may be true on some level, but the amount of vegetation being generated, fresh vegetation being generated on an annual basis, and I apologize, I don't have the actual statistic on that, is pretty significant. So for every tree that they cut down in the Amazon rainforest, I mean, there's X number of trees that all I gotta do is take a picture and show it to you guys of the woods behind my house, because behind my house there's this patch of woods where you have the high tension power lines from National Grid going through. Every single year there are new trees sprouting up there. And sometimes I got to go back there and cut them down because, they get into my fence and they get in the way of I got this big foam target that I use for my crossbow and everything else. It all gets in the way. I got to go back there with a pair of, shears and cut all that down. So there's always new vegetation being created on our planet. So as we cut things down, it gets replaced. It really does. So really, in the final analysis, the so-called scientific underpinnings of global warming, of CO2 emissions, and all of this are bogus. This is all. It amounts to just one great big huge piece of ongoing fake news from the left. Oh my God, it's going to be the end of the world. It's the end of the world. We're all gonna die. You know what? Let me tell you something. Mother Earth to the left. Okay, we're all gonna die. I'm sorry, it's true. We are. We're eventually all gonna die anyway. But 99.9999999% of us are not going to die because of carbon dioxide emissions. Maybe because I've changed my eating habits, I might actually not, in fact, die from a heart attack or something like that. It's the reality. I mean, the kind of quote-unquote analysis being put out by the left is absurd. It's absolutely ridiculous. And yet, almost every single country except the United States has signed on to this climate accord that really isn't going to work. And I'll tell you why it's not going to work. Do you really think that China is going to reduce their carbon emissions? Now let's assume for a second that carbon dioxide, that human contribution to the Earth's carbon dioxide count actually is a thing, a real thing, and I just gave you a statistic indicating it really isn't. Let's assume for a second that that's true. China, under the Paris Climate Accord, doesn't have to do anything. For the next several years and years and years, the way it's actually written, they can do whatever they want. They can put as much pollution up in the air as they want. They don't have to start complying with the agreement as it's written right now until I think the year 2030 or 2040. It's absurd. The whole thing is absurd. China is not going to be. I mean, they might smile for the cameras and sign in the dotted line. India is another huge polluter. These are developing countries where, I heard this morning that, and I've heard from people who have traveled to Beijing, for example, you can't even see, when you look across the street, you can't see across the street. That's how thick the smog is in these places. Those countries are not changing. They are not going to change their carbon emissions anytime soon. So the whole agreement is completely and utterly, number one, it's based on false science, and number two, it's useless as written. So for us to, for the United States to sign on to an agreement that is not going to be effective anyway, that is going to cost American jobs, you know, like shutting down our entire coal industry, for example, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I think President Trump did exactly the right thing by pulling out of this agreement. That being said, I don't think anybody would argue that we shouldn't be concerned about the environment, that we shouldn't be concerned about pollution, that we shouldn't be concerned about, I mean, you guys have seen the videos I've posted, maybe, you know, I posted a video not too long ago about how somebody left a bunch of trash and garbage all lying around at Houghton's Pond. I just came from Houghton's Pond. I take my walk there every morning. There's a trash can right there, and somebody put a bunch of trash right next to the trash can, and of course the wind blew it all over the place and made a huge mess. You know what? Those kinds of things are a problem. That's an actual problem that can be solved by human activity. For example, opening the trash can, putting the trash in the trash can, closing the trash can. Problem solved. So we have to be concerned, we have to be rationally concerned about environmental issues, but it needs to be based on real science and real facts, not this ridiculous idea that carbon dioxide is going to be the death of us all. You know, and when you look at the real, I mean, look around us. Did you guys know? I mean, we're talking about the science that you learn in elementary school will teach you that carbon dioxide is actually important when you think about it. All of the vegetation on the earth, all of the trees, all of the plants, these organisms feed off of CO2. Hey, it's a fact. You and I might feed off of oxygen, but you know, there's a lot more plants on this planet than there are humans. So there's a much bigger equation to that. So, you know, the whole CO2 thing is bogus. Trump pulled out of the agreement. He did exactly the right thing. You know, we're going to be concerned about the environment. It's not like, in the way the left is treating this thing, it's like, oh my God, you know, we're completely divorcing ourselves from environmental concerns. You know, they're doing what they always do, the fake news media. They're taking a molehill, a small thing, and they're turning it into a mountain. This is what I teach my substance abusing clients not to do, is make a mountain out of a molehill, because then they make irrational decisions like doing drugs and alcohol. Well, the world is doing drugs and alcohol on a global scale with this global warming stuff. And I will tell you that I'm very, very happy that our president has pulled out of this agreement, because now, you know, God forbid, maybe we can focus on problems that actually exist. I mean, you guys remember all the stories from the last 40 years about how the ice was supposed to all melt. The ice caps on the North Pole and the South Pole, the ice was all going to melt and the water was going to go up. You know, we were going to lose Florida. Florida was going to be completely overrun by the oceans, you know. That's what they were saying 30 or 40 years ago. By the year 2000, the oceans are going to rise by so many feet or whatever. Well, you know, I saw a news report a couple years ago. They were absolutely devastated by the fact that the oceans rose by, I think it was like 2 millimeters. Oh my God! 2 millimeters! The oceans went up by 2 millimeters. Better sell that oceanfront property because you're going to lose it now. So, you know, this whole thing about... So most of their arguments are baloney. You know what? I mean, in fact, when you look at the last 5 to 10 years, the ice caps have been growing. The ice is actually expanding, not contracting. This is exactly the opposite of what people like Al Gore argued in that, you know, absurd movie that he made, Inconvenient Truth. I don't know if you guys have seen that. The movie that came out about 10 or 15 years ago about how, you know, it was all about gloom and doom. Oh my God, you know, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're ruining the environment, it's going to destroy life on Earth as we know it. Guys, there's only one thing I can think of that human beings can do that will destroy life on Earth as we know it, and that is a full-blown thermonuclear war. And I'm old enough to remember when that was a real concern, when, you know, America was going to go to war with the Soviet Union, and it was going to wipe out Earth, it was going to wipe out life on Earth as we know it, and on and on and on and on. That, as far as I know, is really the only thing that we can do that is guaranteed pretty much to destroy the entire planet. And even then, actually, there might not be too many guarantees. From what I've read, life, in fact, may even survive that. It might be mutated. I know you guys have probably all seen the science fiction movies about nuclear wars and mutated animals and like a deer with 5 legs and 2 snouts and all of this stuff that you see. But we have to get back. I mean, as a country, as a society, we need to get back to actual fact. We need to get back to actual reason. We need to get back to actual logic. This is what has been lost in the equation. I cannot believe for the life of me that entire scientific communities on our colleges, our campuses, our college campuses, our university campuses have been swallowed up in this narrative over the last 40 or 50 years about how the gloom and doom of global warming and all of this. We have bigger problems. I cannot believe that for example, oh, here we go with the traffic again. The bane of my existence. I cannot believe that some celebrities have actually made arguments that there's a connection between global warming and ISIS. That the reason why we have terrorism is not because of Islam or radical Islam, whatever term you want to use, but it's because of global warming. Now, anybody who has any connection with reality at all, even the most minuscule ability to take a premise and reach a conclusion, can see right through the BS in that kind of thinking. I mean, we have bigger problems, guys, than global warming. And what I like about our president, and I'm not an uncritical supporter of Donald Trump. You guys probably might know that I created a group called Critical Trump Supporters, because like any other president, we got to hold his feet to the fire too. But you know what? What he's doing so far is benefiting our country. It is greatly benefiting our country. He is bringing jobs back. He is rekindling the economy, which is needed to be done for a long, long time. We've seen a lot of real gains, a movement in the right direction for our country for the first time in many, many, many years. But that's not going to stop the left from obsessing about the 0.0015% of the Earth's atmospheric content of CO2 that human beings contribute, because oh my God, it's the end of the world, and that's and you know what I mean. I mean that you guys, it's unbelievable. But you know what? I'm very happy that every time I hear about this, it makes me 10 times gladder that I voted for Donald Trump. And that America voted for Donald Trump. This is why we voted for Donald Trump, because he makes rational decisions based on facts and not these sort of hyped up fantasies that have been put out for so many years. And guys, it's Friday. I want to wish you all a happy weekend. I am on my way to work. Exciting things are going on in my job. I've got exciting new things going on. I'm going to be telling you all about it at some point. And you all have a great day. And I will see you next time on Bruce's Commute, and I will see you on Facebook. And hey, don't forget, libertyclarioncall.com. I'm still looking for writers. If you can write, if you can string 2 sentences together and you have something to say, go to my site and send it to me, because I will look at it. And if it's, readable and, a reasonably decent article, then I will put it on the site, libertyclarioncall.com.